Hello and welcome to Homeschool 101 Module 1, and we're going to be addressing in this slideshow what is homeschooling and when did it start. Again, all of my modules in this course are optional, so if you feel like this is not what you want to know right now, you want to get more into some practical things, you can skip this module and go on to another one. But for those of you who want a little background in homeschooling, this is a great place to start, and I'll make it as quick as possible. Let's start with the definition of homeschooling. The formal definition that I found online was the education of children at home by their parents. As a veteran homeschool mom, I kind of chuckle at this because, spoiler alert, it's not always done at home and it's not always done by the parent. Sometimes we take our homeschool on the road. We call that car schooling. You might do it at a gym or a dentist's office. And then there are times when you're going to farm out your schooling to different tutors, possibly people at a co-op, for certain classes that you would like someone else to teach for you. So the point here is that it's always parent directed. Now for a little history of homeschooling in America. In the 16 to 1800s in early America, there were a few schools starting to open, but they were not like what we have today at all. They were more like private schools. You had to pay for them and for your children to attend, so it was unreachable for a lot of Americans, and most children were still learning at home. Then we enter into the time period 1800 to about 1920, the pioneer days. We might think of Laura Ingalls and Little House on the Prairie. By 1918, every state required its people to have an elementary education. That was usually done in a one-room schoolhouse, and still many were not able to do that, and they still learned at home. From 1920 to 1950s is considered a progressive era. There was dramatic expansion and availability of schools, but the quality of the public education varied widely between the different races and social classes, as you can imagine. This was a time of segregation and kind of an ugly time period in the education of America. So some were still learning at home. In the 1960s to the 1980s, things started to shake up and change a little bit. Leaders like John Holt, Raymond Moore, and others were calling for reform. More reform of the school system, not necessarily homeschooling, but that quickly became what it was. Evangelical Christians joined in the movement in 1980s, and they were coming for cultural reasons to get their kids out of the public school system because of more cultural things that they were trying to avoid. And because of that big leaving of the public schools, states started to regulate and make laws and decide what was going to be allowed in each state. So the HSLDA formed, which was the Homeschool Legal Defense Association in the 1980s, and they help protect homeschool rights and represent homeschoolers on Capitol Hill. They're a national organization. From 1990 to the present, we have seen a very diverse group of people choosing homeschooling for all kinds of reasons. It's a very popular choice, and a lot of people are doing it, and they are seeing it as a viable alternative to brick and mortar schools, and curriculum and resources are abundant. It's a really great time to homeschool.